I'm back, mother fun times. Just today, I ran across a quote by Mark Driscoll. He's apparently one of these mega church pastors, and he had a quote on Jesus that was rather alarming and clearly blasphemous. And that's not a term I just throw around, unlike my conservative counterparts who are like, vote a Democrat, blasphemous, 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 stuff like that. No, but listen to this. This is highly disturbing. Apparently, people are starting to recognize the new emergence of this new style of Christianity that's closer to the teachings of Jesus, which conservative Christians obviously view as left-leaning, because that's the kind of stuff Jesus taught. It's, if you were to define it in the current political arena, you would have to describe it as left-leaning, social-oriented politics if you were to politicize it. And that's just the reality of what it is. Just read what Jesus says. If we took every red letter word that Jesus says in the Bible and made it a policy, we'd have a relatively left-leaning, liberal kind of government. But anyways, here's this Mark Driscoll's quote. He says, "There's a strong drift toward the hard theological left. Some emergent types want to recast Jesus as a limp-wrist hippie in a dress with a lot of product in his hair, who drank decaf and made piety zen statements about life while shopping for the perfect pair of shoes." First of all, that's a giant straw man, of course. To continue the quote, "In Revelation, Jesus is a pride fighter with a tattoo down his leg, a sword in his hand, and the commitment to make someone bleed. That is a guy I can worship. I cannot worship the hippie, dapper Halo Christ because I cannot worship a guy I can beat up. I fear some are becoming more cultural than Christian, and without a big Jesus who has an authority and hates sin as revealed in the Bible, we will have less and less Christians and more confused, spiritually self-righteous blogger critics of Christianity." That completes the quote. So, yeah, that's kind of ironic, especially considering he says he fears people more cultural than Christian. Yet, as a evangelical Christian, he obviously subscribes to the culture of the church, as I like to call it, and has been completely ignoring what Jesus says in the Bible, even going so far as to say he likes the Jesus of Revelation much better than the Jesus of the Gospels. Jesus of Revelation is a dream that a guy had about the end times, which included Jesus. This was a dream had by John the disciple, not to be confused with John the Baptist, who had a lot of interaction with Jesus in the Bible. Different John had a dream about Jesus. So this guy likes dream Jesus. He doesn't like the Jesus who existed and walked around on earth. He likes dream Jesus. And this is from a book called Revelation, who, when the books were voted into to what was to be canonized as the Bible, Revelation barely made the cut. I'm not saying Revelation is invalid, but it's highly metaphorical as well, so he can just sort of look at that either way and take whatever interpretation he likes, and he just likes Jesus to come down and beat up people, I guess. And then the other very alarming thing is that he doesn't want to worship a guy that he can beat up. The thing is, the Jesus that walked the earth probably would let him beat up, because this is a guy that said stuff like, turn the other cheek, and he had very pacifist qualities, as long as he wasn't going around flipping around tables at that time. He had other very pacifist qualities, including, like I said, turn the other cheek. So this is a guy that actually probably would let this guy beat him up, unfortunately. And this guy would be a total douchebag, hypocrite, Roman Pilates guy, whatever. Did I say Pilates? I was then also reminded by a quote by Stephen Colbert that's been going around Facebook recently. And what's ironic is a lot of these kinds of quotes that go around like this are meant to point out the hypocrisy in the standard Christian position. But if you are a non-hypocritical Christian, then you can basically look at this and be like, yes, that is a flaw that I've also recognized in the church, and that flaw is not inherent in my style of belief. But this is precisely the reason why I believe in the different way I do rather than the mainstream way that other people do. But the Stephen Colbert quote goes, If this is going to be a Christian nation that doesn't help the poor, either we have to pretend that Jesus was just as selfish as we are, despite all evidence, of course, or to continue the quote, or we've got to acknowledge that he commanded us to love the poor and serve the needy without condition, and then admit we just don't want to do it. I'd like to propose a third, less hilarious option, and that would be to if we are going to be a Christian nation, you're going to claim that we're going to be a Christian nation, let's actually do that stuff. Let's help people out and do Christian stuff. Let's try that on for a change. Just as a disclaimer, I actually like the idea of separation of church and state because I don't want any particular type of Christianity forced upon me by the government. Obviously, if the evangelicals got their way, we'd have a very perverted culture of the church-style Christianity that would not be reflective of Jesus' teachings or the Bible at all. And that would be a very bad situation and would just further cause Christianity to collapse and more people to deconvert and become atheists. Yes, I am back, and I am going to try to stay back with this type of thought of the week type blog. Basically where I just turn on the camera and start talking about whatever I've been thinking about that week with very little structure involved. Now, there's a lot of highly structured, highly researched stuff that I keep wanting to do, but it just takes a long time to do. I'm in research phase in several videos like this, and I've been in research phase on some of them for a very long time. They're still coming, but they take a while, so I want to keep you guys updated with certain types of issues in the meantime. If you haven't already, you should add me on Facebook. I'll put the link in the bottom bar, or whatever they're calling it these days. Comments are getting a little tiresome to reply to. There's so many of them these days, but if you want to engage in more of a direct dialogue, Facebook is absolutely the place to do it. So check me out there. That's all I got. Catch you sometime next week.